Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Emily Pelley, and I am the Publications Coordinator for Ratio Christi Canada. So Ratio Christi Press is the publishing arm of Ratio Christi, and they've been putting out some fantastic resources for university students and you that are addressing important issues in apologetics today. So we're going to be speaking to one of those authors, Corey Miller, who is the president and CEO of Ratio Christi. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Emily.
All right. Can you please introduce yourself? Let people know a bit about who you are.
Sure. Dr. Corey Miller. I am president and CEO of Ratio Christi, former seventh generation Mormon raised in Utah. So I've written a couple of books on that, but then God gave me a passion for evangelism and truth, and went on for graduate degrees in theology and philosophy and wrote some books on that topic as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so happy you're here to talk with us today about one of the booklets you authored, which is called Is Christianity Good or Bad for the World? Assessing the Goodness of the Christian Faith. So in this booklet, you make the case that Christianity brought the goods of Western society into being. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, I think, many people have questioned the truthfulness of Christianity, its veracity. But today, we're not just being told that we believe in something false and that we're hideously headless, but that we're heartless, we're wicked, and that we're oppressive. And so I think it's a necessary thing for us to push back and to be able to see or to showcase some of the values that we have brought in the West that has made the West best, that are accounted for based on the emergence of the Christian movement.
So what parts of the Christian movement would you point to specifically?
For example, representative style, democratic, republican kinds of governments, as opposed to totalitarian, imperial rule, things like that. I would say from free market economics that's helped raise the world out of abject poverty, the whole university system, education, morality, hospitals, and so forth. There's a whole lot of things we can look at to show why people want to emulate the West, why they want to migrate to the West, and sometimes even invade into Western countries because they see those things as so valuable.
Yeah, super interesting. Okay, so this book asks a question that's very relevant to apologetics today, because as the contention for the existence of God, that still seems to be happening. But more and more we're hearing the question of, is God good or not? Not just is he real, but is he good? How do you see this question playing out in cultural discourse today?
Yeah, so it's not so much a question about the problem of evil and the goodness of God. I do tackle that in another booklet, but the common question is the existential question about God's existence. Does God exist? Again, this one is more of a cultural apologetics, an axiological question that addresses what value impact, if any, God's existence does or would bring about for, say, human flourishing. And protheism says it would increase net value, and antitheism says it would decrease net value. And so I would say one way of approaching this is from a protheistic stance is we could locate these various values that we have just mentioned that are commonly embraced as goods for humanity, and whose existence entails God's existence, or a more modest way that would probably garner a larger audience to agree would be to say that these located goods that are commonly embraced as such and are widely considered makes God's existence more likely because they emerged not just as a matter of fact with the emergence of Christianity, but deeply rooted in its DNA, that it gives a greater explanatory probability for the Christian God's existence.
Right. Okay, so in your conclusion of this booklet, you point to Jesus as being a revolutionary who impacted the world for good in a way that no one else in history has managed to do. So what would you say to someone who is asking this big question of, is Christianity good or bad? Is Jesus actually good? And how can I know for sure?
Yeah, again, we would look at some of the cultural issues and say, where did those come from? Are they best explained from materialism on the one hand, all is matter, or from pantheism on the other hand, all is mind, or and a worldview that begins with mind that created matter. And that's what developed all the sciences, the universities, all the hospitals, and so forth. And so we can show people what people like Richard Dawkins even admits now today. He wants to be a cultural Christian. Ian Hersey Ali now has converted to becoming not just a cultural Christian, but a real Christian. Tom Holland, the agnostic. Elon Musk wants to be considered a cultural Christian. Now it's a cool thing to be a cultural Christian because they've been able to see one cultural view of the way that it could be in the world to another, cultural Marxism, and they have not liked what they've seen with cultural Marxism. That's a way to bring people back to the core and explain what founded it. And the Jesus movement is the biggest movement in history, and we can get people to say, look, taste and see personally what many people are starting to see culturally. They like the fruit, but not the root. But you can't have the fruit without the root. You need to go back to the metaphysical ground of what made the West best.
Right. So interesting. Okay, so can you tell us a bit about what you're working on now?
I have a book coming out. It's already on Amazon. The Progressive Miseducation of America, Confronting the Cultural Revolution from the Classroom to Your Community, where we look at what just happened to America over the last 5 years. Feels like it's no longer America. Look no further than the universities. I tell the story about how those were founded by Christians from Europe to America to Southeast Asia. And then through two revolutions, we lost the universities to first scientific naturalism and second to postmodern cultural Marxism. And then that's where I launch into a clarion call for a robust view of Christian, thoughtful Christianity and apologetics, and speaking to pastors and parents and philanthropists and prayers, all hands on deck. We need to be thinking about the university. Everything moves from the campus to the culture.
Absolutely. Can you say the name of the book again?
I hope. The Progressive Miseducation of America, Confronting the Cultural Revolution from the Classroom to Your Community.
Fantastic. And that's available on Amazon.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Corey. This has been great. So, is Christianity good or bad for the world? You can grab a copy of this booklet if you go to press.ratiochristi.org, or if you're here in Canada, you can go to press.ratiochristi.ca. The booklets are available in ebook and paperback, and these just make such a great resource for personal study, also for group study as well, answering some big questions in our culture today. So thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you, Emily.
Have a great day.